Alright, I got another knife video for you today, and it's a twofer, just like my last one where I covered two different knives at once, and similar style to the last one, I did a smaller knife and a larger knife. I want to tell you guys about these two really nice Joker knives. This is a company I was not all that familiar with until recently, and instantly I am a fan. The amount of knife quality that you get for the money with these, I think, is excellent. So I'll start by talking about this one. This is the Avispa. As I understand it, in Spanish, Avispa means wasp. You can tell that it does kind of have the handle shape of a wasp, and it's colored like that. I was really drawn to this micarta handle with the cool coloring. I don't have a handle that looks anything like that, so that's cool. And comes with a little kydex sheath. It does not come with this clip. I actually took this clip off of one of my other knives. It's meant as a neck knife. I don't personally really like carrying them on the neck, but I can confirm in scout carry on the belt, you don't even notice this is there. This would make a great belt EDC type of knife. It's stainless 14C28N steel, which as I understand it has a nice combo of corrosion resistance, edge retention, and it can stand up to some abuse, which I'll show in the video. I know you wouldn't ordinarily baton with a knife this small, but I did it to a degree just to show that it can. And this would be, it's kind of the size of a paring knife, and so it does a decent job at food prep also. There's a good slope on the flat grind here, and it's not overly thick. I think this is a good balance of being thick enough to be strong for all kinds of camp and survival uses for a knife this size, but not so thick that, you know, for chopping and cutting and stuff that you're really going to have an issue. Nice mix of features there. And then there's the Joker Nomad. Now they recently came out with a larger 6.5-inch version. I'm going to be talking about the 5-inch blade version today. When I took it out of the box, a couple of things that right away struck me. One, that this is a genuine leather sheath. You can tell from the smell. Very few things that I buy these days that say that they're leather are actual leather. Even $500 and $600 headphones that I've tried that claim that they're leather are always fake leather, and that's always been a disappointment to me because I'm like, come on guys, at this price point, you know, spring for some real leather. So it's great that this sheath is made out of it, and it's a nice thick double-stitched material, very high quality, and it even comes with its own fire starter. It's real snug in there, but that's good retention. I think the idea of a camp knife that has its own ferro rod attached to it is an interesting idea. I've not owned a camp knife that had that before. And as you can see with the blade, it's a little bit of a drop point and has a real belly right in here, which I'll show you is actually great for carving and stuff. Real meaty knife with a full convex edge on it. I haven't had a lot of knives with this style of convex on it, but man, this batons well, and it is, as far as a camp knife goes for food prep, probably about the best that I've tried. Despite the very meaty spine, which of course gives it a ton of strength for batoning and just hard use type of stuff, that does a little bit come into play when you're chopping, but the convex edge itself is so slicey. This would be a great all-around knife for camp uses. If you were only going to bring one knife with you for, say, a camping trip or an outdoors adventure, you could feel pretty good about a knife like this being large enough to baton through different wood, smaller wood that you're not going to use a hatchet for. You could carve with it, you could do bushcrafting tasks with it, and you could do food prep all with the same knife and not worry that was going to be an issue. The micarta scale handle is very comfortable to hold, and I don't feel any hot spots when I grip on it, and that to me is significant just because the other large camp knife I reviewed recently, the F&Grow 143, I like this knife a lot, and I have used it a lot outside. The handle is fairly comfortable, but it's just a little bit blocky on these parts of the handle, and when I grip it hard, I do feel that that is a hot spot on this part of my fingers, whereas gripping this one the same way, I don't feel any of that. And so just, I like the thought that went into everything about the design of this. And completely, this is probably the first knife that when I took it out of the box and just saw it like this, I was just taken aback by just the presentation of it and was like, wow, this really feels like master craftsmanship. and probably, to be honest, is one of the nicest knives that I've ever owned. It's made of Bohler N695 steel. Honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with that steel, but I've read a lot of places that it's kind of comparable to 440C, just with some slightly different composition to it. I think that's a pretty good compromise in a knife. It's not like some super steel that's going to drive the price up tremendously, but it's a tough enough steel that everything I have put it through, and you watch other people's review videos, they have beat on this knife as well. It's giving you, I think, a tremendous value for the money of a steel that if you take care of it, you can use it for basically anything you would reasonably do outside with it, and it will probably last many, many years doing that without having to be absurdly expensive. And quite honestly, I think for me anyway, if it were a knife that was $300 or $400 featuring some kind of super steel, I would arguably be afraid to go outside and use it for some of the stuff you'd use an outdoor knife for, just because nobody wants to accidentally chip or damage their $300 knife. And so I think the price point that this comes in at, depending on the configuration, usually between $120 and $140. It's slightly more expensive if you get the sheath that has the fire starter on it. And in other reviews, people had commented that this had snaps on the back that would quite easily come off, and that they were recommending you use super glue. It seems like Joker has taken that feedback into account, because this knife, which obviously is a recent acquisition, is now stitched on the back, so you won't have any issue with the belt loop part coming out. I really like the style of this kind of loop, because when I had the clip on this sheath, I had commented that it makes the handle sit high, and when you're already talking a knife this big, it sits up here. When you're walking, it's slapping you in the side or the belly the whole time. I didn't find that all that comfortable as a belt knife. I don't know that I would necessarily belt carry a knife this big anyway, so it'd probably go in the backpack, but with this design, it sits a lot lower. If it hooked to my belt right there, look at how low that sits. That's nice. And it's not so long that it's like hitting my leg the whole time I'm walking. It's been pretty comfortable. This is just enough smaller than the F&Grow 143 that I think it would make a good belt knife and offers a lot of versatility. How would this do on smaller pieces? It'll take it. Can definitely feel how hard the wood is on that one, but it still went through. And so you can baton with a little knife. Obviously you don't have enough blade to go through real big thick pieces of wood, but if it'll hammer through that kind of wood, that I think it says a heck of a lot. Alright, so final verdict. I'm really happy with the little Avispa here. It is, like I said, a great EDC knife. I have carried it a whole bunch of days. It puts up with anything that I have thrown at it, and anything you would reasonably do with a knife of this size. Even as I showed stuff you probably are a little beyond a knife you would do with this size, but it's always good to know when you're, especially if this is an EDC knife, if you were in a scenario where it was your only knife and you had to carve or baton through some wood or something, you know that you could do it with this. I think the price is very reasonable at about $60. I like that it comes with a nice Kydex sheath, and as a small paring knife size food prep, it does a great job. Really good all-around knife, and I haven't had any issues with this steel. Even batoning some hard wood with a knife this small, the blade is still, got a little fuzzy on that part right there, but the blade is still rock solid. There's that little mark again. There we go. No damages with the blade, and it's easy to strap up. What more could I ask for in a small knife like this? The Nomad, man, I like this knife a lot. I'm glad to have an even larger knife like the F&Grow 143 for certain tasks, but honestly, 5 inches to me is about the perfect size for an outdoor knife, because in a lot of cases I feel like, other than maybe using the bigger knife like you would a machete to clear brush and stuff, most things that I would use an outdoor knife for, this is an ideal size. And if it got any bigger, to me anyway, it might start being a little unwieldy. This blade holds up incredibly well. And it's not that difficult to sharpen. I did get some instruction on convex sharpening, but if you mostly use a strop, if you're on it and you don't let the blade get really dull, it strops up pretty easily. And so I was a little concerned about that in the beginning with convex edges, but I would say that to say don't let that stop you. If you don't have a lot of experience with convex edges and you're thinking about a knife like this one, do it. It's not that hard to sharpen. And it is great for a whole lot of tasks. So much so, in fact, that the Condor bush lore, which I have had for a number of years now, I think at this point I would only ever pull this out for nostalgia, just to use it for the sake of using it, but I think it's completely outmoded by the Nomad. Yes, it's a little smaller, but I don't really feel like enough so that I would say, you know, this is an easier to use knife. It's lighter for sure, but whatever trade-offs normally you feel like you're getting for high carbon steel, like how much it's roll resistant and it doesn't chip easily and it will take abuse for outdoors tasks, I feel like a knife like this is at least as durable for those tasks. This is even bigger and stronger the way that it's constructed. It carves better because of that tip, the belly tip right there. And so this, to me anyway, just doesn't offer anything to stay competitive to justify itself. And knowing how rust resistant this blade is, that I don't have to baby it as much, I would just feel way more comfortable taking this outside or on a camping trip and not having to worry about it than I would a carbon steel knife that I would have to really be conscious of what I'm doing with it the whole time. That's my opinion anyway. Your mileage may vary. I hope this has been helpful if you're looking at some knives and you wanted to see some new ones for your outdoors tasks. And if you're interested in either of these, I will put some links in the description. They are affiliate links for Amazon. If you want to support what I'm doing and help me out a little bit, helps me continue to make this kind of content for you. And man, Joker is definitely on my radar now as a brand that I will continue to look at knives through, because these two, this is a great little EDC companion knife to something larger like that, and I feel like between the two of them, you could do pretty much anything that you needed to do. And if you start needing stuff that you need more knife than that, you're probably in hatchet territory anyway. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.